This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. The Trump administration has declared California a major disaster. 18 major fires are burning right now, and at least 8 people have died. In the north, the Carr Fire has destroyed more than 1,000 homes and displaced tens of thousands. Our Heather Sells spent the weekend there and reports on a story you won't see anywhere else, how area churches are responding.
The devastation here in Redding is historic, but the tragedy is also uniting the local community and the church. At Bethel Church Sunday morning, thousands lifted their hands and sang about God's love in the flames. You can still see the smoke here from the nearby Carr Fire, which destroyed entire neighborhoods and seemed to cherry-pick homes in others, leaving some to rejoice, others to mourn, and everyone to question their safety. Pastor Elizabeth Wanning spent the last week as a volunteer counselor at Bethel.
Whether you're in the evacuation area or you've lost a home or whether your home was completely safe, the whole community is on edge.
The air quality here is poor, and churches are handing out breathing masks. One of the many needs local churches are working together to meet in what they believe is a new chapter of unity.
We've had over 30 churches meeting together, praying together, trying to problem solve.
5 churches are supporting a Red Cross shelter at Cross Point Community Church, and Bethel is hosting a Salvation Army distribution center. Mercy Chefs offers meals, and the center offers food and clothing for those who've lost everything, including at least 25 on Bethel's staff.
We have people on our teams, they lost their homes. Lots of us were displaced. Our own family was displaced.
Bethel member Tony Stoltzfus lost his home, which doubled as his office. 3 days after the fire started, he woke up to evacuation orders.
We threw our suitcases in the car, we got the pets, we got our computers.
Mary Lou Wonkel lost her home as well.
Didn't even know what I was doing, just throwing clothes in. Then I began to grab my Bibles.
For these 2 and thousands of others, housing is the urgent need.
They're piled up in their friends' homes. So, every available couch, every available place of floor space, people are moving into those spaces.
The government should allow victims to start sifting through the wreckage of their properties this week. Many churches are sponsoring chaplains who will escort and help families during the painful process.
That's very important. The first time they see a home burned, they just fall on their knees and cry, and you have to be there to support them.
For Tony, the tears have already come, but he's grateful for a handful of mementos he still has and his work as a personal coach, which uniquely prepared him.
A lot of what I do in my work is teach people to detach their desires from the things in the world that they think will fill them and find the desire of their heart in their relationship with Jesus.
Mary Lou is holding fast to her faith and a word she received from the Lord.
Being an intercessor, I just was praying in the Spirit. I had no words. I had nothing other than just praying in the Spirit. And even before we left the house, I kept hearing new beginnings, new beginnings, new beginnings.
Experts warn it will take years for Redding to rebuild, but this city is hoping to set an example. Pastor Chris is teaching from his life verse in Isaiah.
It's only God who could take ashes and make beauty out of it. It's only God that can take a disaster and create hope in the midst of it.
Reporting in Redding, Heather Sells, CBN News.
President Trump's growing frustration with the ongoing Russia investigation played out again on Twitter this weekend. Amber Strong takes a look at his latest remarks and his attorney's defense strategy.
A fresh round of tweets from the president giving fuel to the conversation surrounding the ongoing Russia investigation. Fake news reporting a complete fabrication, that I am concerned about the meeting my wonderful son Donald had in Trump Tower. This was a meeting to get information on an opponent. Totally legal and done all the time in politics, he tweeted. It confirms the 2016 meeting in Trump Tower was about gathering opposition research from a Russian lawyer, not primarily adoption as previously stated. Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, says that isn't a crime.
The question is, what law, statute, or rule or regulation has been violated? Nobody's pointed to one.
As to the charges by some Democrats at the president's tweet last week calling on Attorney General Jeff Sessions to stop the investigation is obstruction of justice, Sekulow says not so fast.
Obstruction of justice by tweet is absurd. At the end of the day, this is all about the Constitution. It's all about Article 2, and that would be the question. If it went to court, that would be the question that the courts would be addressing. Someone to make an allegation of obstruction, those are Article 2 powers, and I think it's a very compelling case.
While President Trump's lawyers say he wants to sit down with the special counsel, they've advised against it, leaving the question for Robert Mueller's team, to subpoena or not to subpoena.
A subpoena for live testimony has never been tested in court as to a president of the United States, and there's a lot of language, articles, and precedent against that. But if that decision is made, we'll prepare to handle it in court.
While the president is calling for the investigation to end, Senator Marco Rubio says it must continue for the good of the nation.
I believe it is in the best interest of the president and of the United States of America and the American people for that investigation to run the course, for all the truth to come out. If there was evidence, strong evidence of collusion, I guarantee you it would have been leaked by now.
Meanwhile, visions of a blue wave come midterm elections have some Democrats talking impeachment again.
2 in 3 Democratic voters say Democrats, if they win the House, should begin the process of impeaching President Trump. That's according to a recent poll. Would you support that?
Yeah. If the grounds are there, then we should proceed.
But others in the party caution Democrats need to be careful when it comes to invoking the I word. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Venezuelan leaders are blaming far-right political parties, Colombia, and even the U.S. for an alleged assassination attempt on President Nicolas Maduro Saturday. Video shows the socialist leader speaking at a military event when an explosion goes off in the distance. 7 people were injured in an attack by drones equipped with explosives. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton denies American involvement, saying Maduro himself may be behind that explosion.
Could be a lot of things, from a pretext set up by the Maduro regime itself to something else. He's made accusations accusing the outgoing president of Colombia of responsibility, what he calls the extreme right wing in Venezuela. That means the vast opposition to his authoritarian rule. And he's blamed unnamed financiers in the United States.
Firemen responding to the scene say the blast was a gas explosion in a nearby building. Maduro recently won re-election in a vote observers say was tainted by fraud. And critics say his socialist policies are devastating Venezuela, leading to a hyperinflation that could reach 1,000,000% by the end of the year, a food crisis, and thousands of people fleeing the country. The terror group Hamas will agree to a gradual ceasefire with Israel. That is according to a report Monday in the London-based Saudi paper Ashaq al-Assad. Israel has not responded publicly to that report. The deal was brokered by Egypt. In the first stage of the plan, Hamas would stop its terror activities on the Gaza border. Those include rocket firings and arson attacks with kites and balloons, and attempts by protesters to cross into Israel. In return, Israel would ease restrictions on goods coming into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the border protests and arson attacks continued. Fire officials said incendiary balloons and kites from Hamas caused 50 fires just this weekend. A Palestinian teenager died Sunday after clashes Friday with Israeli troops. Here now is a look at some of the other major headlines we're following for you today inside the CBN newsroom. At least 91 people are dead and more than 200 injured after a powerful earthquake struck Indonesia. The 7.0 earthquake damaged thousands of homes, sending nearly 20,000 people into temporary shelters. Officials say 3 ships have been deployed to evacuate people from the islands of Lombok and Bali. They say there is currently no tsunami threat. Turkey is retaliating after Washington imposed sanctions on 2 Turkish ministers over the case of Andrew Brunson. Turkish President Recep Erdogan threatening to freeze the assets of America's Justice and Interior ministers in Turkey. The U.S. placed the sanctions in response to Turkey's refusal to release the American pastor accused of espionage and terror acts. Erdogan said Saturday the sanctions were disrespectful and said he hoped the U.S. would drop its, quote, hot-tempered attitude and return to its good senses. Singer Demi Lovato is thanking God after a drug overdose sent her into the hospital 2 weeks ago. This relapse coming on the heels of her hit song Sober, released just last month, in which she admits in the song to struggling with her sobriety. In a recent Instagram post, she thanks her fans for sticking by her and then says, "I want to thank God for keeping me alive as well." Sources say she plans to check herself into rehab upon her release from the hospital. For more on these stories and others throughout the day, you can always visit cbnnews.com. Coming up, a look into the hidden world of how politicians make deals that enrich both themselves and their families, and how one author has uncovered it. We're going to have that story when we come back. Hope you'll stay with us. An author whose book sparked an FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation has also now released another expose, this one on politicians from both sides. The title of Peter Schweizer's book speaks for itself: Hidden Empires, How the American Political Class Hides Corruption and Enriches Family and Friends. CBN's Jenna Browder talked with Schweitzer about uncovering these political secrets.
Politicians have gotten very clever about corruption.
Washington has a long and well-deserved reputation for double dealing. And now, according to best-selling author Peter Schweitzer, the name of the game is changing.
It used to be they'd take money in a shoebox, they'd get a direct payoff. Now what they're doing is basically setting up their family members or close friends.
Schweitzer lays out his case in his book, Secret Empires, with well-researched examples featuring some big-name politicians.
Vice President of the United States Joe Biden in December of 2013 is flying to Beijing, China on Air Force Two on official business. On the plane is his son, Hunter Biden. 10 days after that trip, Hunter Biden walks away with a $1.5 billion private equity deal from the Chinese government.
As an equity firm, that deal wouldn't require public disclosure. Schweitzer says it was found by investigating world capital markets. Aides to the Bidens dispute the accusation. And it's not just Democrats feeling the heat.
Corruption is a human problem. It's a condition of the human heart. It's not an issue related just to Democrats and Republicans.
Schweitzer shows that by including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and his wife, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao.
So Elaine Chao's father and sister run a company that has its ships built by the Chinese government. The construction of those ships are financed by the Chinese government. Many of the shipping contracts are with Chinese government entities. So they've made a lot of money with the help of the Chinese government.
Schweitzer says some of that money came to McConnell in the form of a gift from his father-in-law, running somewhere between $5 and $25 million. This, too, was also never publicly disclosed.
And here's the problem with all of this. Senator Mitch McConnell knows that if he were to take a harsh position on Beijing as it relates to human rights or trade policy or currency manipulation, they could shut down the family business tomorrow.
He says McConnell's record in Congress is telling.
He's become progressively softer in his policy views towards China. It's extremely troubling.
McConnell's office calls these wild accusations not backed by credible sourcing. One of Schweitzer's big takeaways in the book is that corruption is upstream from policy.
So what do I mean? If you've ever gone backpacking or camping and you want to drink out of a stream, you check upstream to make sure there's nothing toxic, because it's going to poison the water you're drinking. Same thing in Washington, D.C. Corruption is upstream from policy. These corrupt deals are affecting the policies that we in this country have to live under.
He says the rules of the game need to change.
It's not a victimless crime.
And at the end of the day, the American people deserve to know. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Up next, here on CBN NewsWatch, we're looking at the largest and longest running music festival in the country and taking a look at its impact on fans and musicians themselves around the world. We've got that story when we come back. The largest and longest running music festival in the country, the Vans Warped Tour, comes to an end this summer. We joined the tour for a look at its impact on musicians and fans from across the world. This is the Vans Warped Tour. Founded by Kevin Lyman in 1995, it is the biggest and longest running traveling music festival in the country. and it attracts artists from all over the world, including Australian heavy metal band In Heart's Wake.
We're seeing a demographic here in America of all walks of life. So Warped Tour has enabled us to really meet those people face to face, and that's cool.
And Tatiana De Maria from London.
Every day we'll do a show, but then we'll have a signing, and I like to take the time at the signing to just get to know people, because I think the most important thing for me as a musician is connecting with people.
This year also features some Warped Tour veterans, We the Kings.
As a kid, I fell in love with music by going to Warped Tour, and fast forward to now, getting to stand on the stage, same stages that my favorite bands stood on. Warped Tour, I don't know where we'd be without it.
And Senses Fail.
I started doing it when I was 20 and I'm 34 now, so pretty much my entire adult life has been spent on Warped Tour.
My Children, My Bride is one of the bands using the festival as an opportunity to share their faith with music fans around the country.
We're being able to play in front of so many new people, and it's just been honestly a blessing. I always just try to spread a message of love. As a Christian, my job is to spread love, and it's just my personal thing to try to love and hug and be there and listen to as many people as I can.
Lyman announced this would be the final national Warped Tour, but the iconic music festival will leave a lasting positive impact for bands and their fans.
I've fallen, gotten back up, fallen back down, gotten back up, went through went to the substance and addiction side on this tour, which kind of hurt me a lot. Was homeless on this tour. It's been a life-changing thing for me. I don't know where I'd be without this tour.
The camaraderie is amazing. Making this many friends is amazing. Watching bands support each other is amazing.
Beyond the music, the tour encourages others to live positively, inspiring bands to pursue causes close to their heart.
Right now we're doing FIND, which is to prevent opioid abuse.
We do marine debris cleanups. So we just walk the beaches for an hour and we get all kinds of stuff cleaning up.
Every day we're reminded and encouraged to clean up our trash, to be good to each other, to support each other, to work hard.
And regardless of your political beliefs, I think you can be human enough to treat people with decency.
Anytime that we can use our success and our celebrity to help better the world, we'll always say yes.
And it also tours with nonprofit organizations like To Write Love on Our Arms, with a mission to give hope to people struggling with addiction and depression.
To Write Love on Our Arms started 12 years ago. Since then we've grown and we raise awareness for depression and drug addiction and self-injury. There's been just a huge growth of the conversation going on and kids getting help if they need it.
And Can You Hear Me, an organization that provides a forum for those struggling with mental health issues.
We see so many kids each day, from I've dealt with cutting and I no longer cut, to I was addicted to heroin and I'm not anymore.
With Warped Tour coming to an end after more than 2 decades of leaving a positive footprint across the country, it will no doubt be missed by all its musicians and supporters.
All in all, I would say that Warped Tour has taught a lot of bands to take care of each other.
The cross-country tour of Warped Tour that I've done so many times won't be there, and but I'm lucky to have experienced it.
Eminem has been on Warped Tour, Katy Perry and Paramore and all these huge bands, and to see it come full circle and come to an end, it's been amazing.
But Lyman has hinted at a possible future for Warped Tour.
The person behind it, Kevin Lyman, as a visionary, is a person who's put a lot of his emotion into this tour.
We know the same passion will be behind whatever Lyman has planned.
It's going to be bittersweet to see it go, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do next.
This is maybe the last year of the traveling Warped Tour, but I believe that for a lot of us, we're still going to be bringing that world that Kevin created out in our own worlds, in our own ways. So I'm blessed to be a part of it.
A blessing indeed, and Studio 5 will be watching to see what he does next. Stay with us. There's much more of CBN NewsWatch coming up right after this. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. CBN's Operation Blessing is helping to provide clean water to a small mountainside village in Honduras. Villagers frequently get sick because they're drinking water from unsanitary sources. Operation Blessing is able to locate a better source up the mountain. Teams then constructed a durable network of piping to deliver that water down into a brand new massive water reservoir. Teams also installed faucets into every single home in the village. You can learn more about what Operation Blessing is doing around the world by visiting ob.org. Right now, it's time for your Monday motivation. As you begin your week, consider this: God loves you, and His love has nothing to do with how you look, feel, or even live. He loves you completely. Think on that for a moment. The Creator of the universe loves you unconditionally. How are you loving Him back? How are you answering His unconditional love? Obedience to His will and to His way is a great place to start. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can get more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about, always, at cbnnews.com. And we love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. You can, of course, always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Have a great day. Remember, the news continues 24/7 at cbnnews.com. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.